Imagine being stranded on an island, not a desert island in the ocean, but one inside your own mind. An island where every voice but your own has been shouting for years. You've been trying to survive everyone else's expectations, forgetting that the island isn't lost. You are. The island was never lost, you were. This is a truth many of us resist because it's easier to blame circumstances, relationships, or external chaos for the feeling of being adrift. We tell ourselves that somewhere along the way we lost our way, that our identity has been scattered by life's demands. But the reality is that the lost island has always existed inside of us. It has always been waiting patiently for us to recognize it and reclaim it. The reason it feels lost is not because it disappeared, but because we stopped paying attention to ourselves. We stopped listening to the voice that matters most, our own. Life has a way of drawing our attention outward, demanding that we perform, please, and comply with expectations that aren't our own. Over time, we become so consumed by these external pressures that the reflection in the mirror becomes unfamiliar. We look at ourselves and wonder, ooh, is this person staring back at me? The answer is that it's still you. You were never gone. You were buried under layers of noise, doubt, and conformity. The lost island is not a place to be found somewhere far away. It is the part of you that remembers your own truth, your instincts, and the desires you were once unafraid to pursue. It is the essence of your authenticity, obscured by distraction and fear, waiting for you to step back into it. Reclaiming this island begins with acknowledgement. The first step is admitting that you've been living in fragments, that you've been prioritizing the expectations of others over your own needs, and in doing so, you've neglected yourself. That acknowledgement is not shameful, it is empowering. Because once you recognize that the island exists, that your core self is still intact beneath the chaos, you can start the journey to reconnect. The process requires honesty. You must confront the ways in which you've silenced yourself, compromised your values, or ignored the intuition that has always guided you. You must admit that the comfort of pleasing others has sometimes come at the cost of your own fulfillment. And you must accept that while the journey back may be uncomfortable, it is necessary for growth and liberation. Claiming your island also demands courage. It's not enough to recognize it, you must step into it. This means setting boundaries, reclaiming your time, protecting your energy, and making choices aligned with your true self. It is an act of defiance against the expectations that have pulled you away, and an act of love toward the person you've been neglecting. The island is not about isolation, it's about presence. Being fully and unapologetically yourself. When you reconnect with it, you stop chasing validation outside and begin to find it within. The lost island is not a myth, a distant dream, or a place you must escape to. It is your sanctuary, your compass, and your power. You were never lost. You were simply waiting to remember who you really are. And when you do, everything else begins to shift. The journey to reclaim yourself begins when you silence the noise and hear your own voice. In a world that never stops talking, it's easy to become lost in the clamor of other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments. From the moment we are born, external voices shape our sense of self. Parents, teachers, peers, media, and society at large. They tell us who we should be, how we should behave, what success looks like, and which paths are acceptable. Over time, these external directives become so ingrained that the quiet, authentic voice within us is drowned out. We stop asking ourselves what we truly want. We stop listening to our intuition and desires. We begin to live as if our life belongs to someone else, following scripts written by others. But the voice within you has always been there, patiently waiting for your attention. It is not loud, flashy, or dramatic, but it is persistent. It guides you toward the decisions, actions, and choices that align with your core self. Listening to that voice is not always easy. It requires courage to ignore the crowd, to resist the pressure to conform, and to make choices that may be unpopular or misunderstood. It means confronting fears and doubts, acknowledging the parts of yourself you've neglected and giving yourself permission to act from authenticity rather than obligation. The first step is stillness. In a world obsessed with constant movement and distraction, creating space to hear your inner voice is revolutionary. Silence allows clarity. It allows you to distinguish between the messages that are yours and those that belong to someone else. Meditation, journaling, long walks, or simply sitting quietly with your thoughts are tools to help you reconnect with that internal compass. Once you hear it, the next step is trust. The voice inside you is a compass pointing toward your truth, but it only works if you believe it. Following it may mean making difficult choices, saying no when you usually say yes, leaving behind environments that no longer serve you, or pursuing dreams that seem risky. Trusting your voice is an act of self-respect. It is an assertion that your life belongs to you and that your instincts, desires, and truths matter. When you make decisions guided by this inner voice, your life begins to shift. You move from living reactively to living intentionally. Every action taken from authenticity strengthens your connection to yourself and builds confidence in your judgment. The world may still speak loudly, but your inner voice becomes the filter through which you interpret it. Eventually, you realize that the noise outside is irrelevant. What matters is that you are aligned with yourself, your values, and your purpose. Silence and trust create a space where your authentic self can thrive. Hearing your voice is the key to reclaiming the lost island of self because it reminds you the map was always within you. The journey is not about escaping the world. It's about finding your anchor in it, your voice, your truth, and your life guided by what only you can hear. Courage is the compass that guides us back to ourselves. In a world filled with distractions, pressures, and expectations, it is courage that allows us to navigate the journey toward authenticity. Every choice to honor your true self, every decision to set boundaries, and every step taken away from what no longer serves you is a testament to courage. It is easy to follow the path laid out by others, to comply with norms, and to live within the comfort of conformity. It is far harder to step into uncertainty, to challenge what is expected, and to walk a path that may feel unfamiliar. But that is exactly what courage demands. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear. When we reclaim ourselves, we confront the fears that have kept us adrift, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, and the fear of being alone. Each act of bravery, no matter how small, is a signal to ourselves that our voice matters, our choices matter, and our life matters. Setting boundaries, for example, is a courageous act. Saying no to obligations, relationships, or situations that drain you or compromise your values is not selfish. It is a declaration of self-respect. Every time you draw a line, you signal to yourself and to the world that you are reclaiming control over your own life. Similarly, speaking your truth requires courage. It is easy to remain silent to avoid conflict or discomfort. Yet, silence erodes identity. When you voice your needs, beliefs, and intentions, you affirm that your perspective and existence are valid. Courage gives you the strength to endure the resistance or misunderstanding that may come from others when you claim your authenticity. Making choices aligned with your true self is perhaps the most courageous act of all. Life is full of crossroads, many of which involve stepping away from familiarity or security. Choosing a path that honors your inner truth may not always be popular, easy, or safe, but it is necessary to reclaim your island of self. Each choice, guided by courage, strengthens your connection to your identity, creating momentum toward a life that is intentional rather than reactive. Courage also teaches resilience. It reminds you that mistakes are not failures, but lessons that refine your compass. It shows you that setbacks are temporary and that persistence in alignment with your authentic self is more powerful than conformity or approval. The journey back to self is rarely linear. It involves navigating storms of doubt, criticism, and fear, but courage is the compass that never falters. It points you toward the shores of your own truth, urging you to keep moving even when the terrain is uncertain. Without courage, the lost island of self remains distant, obscured by fear and distraction. With courage, you take the first step, and then the next, and eventually you arrive. You stand fully on the island that was always yours, claiming it with confidence, clarity, and strength. Courage does not just guide you, it transforms you. It is the compass that turns uncertainty into direction, fear into action, and distance into reclamation. Through courage, you become not just the traveler, but the master of your own journey. Solitude is often misunderstood. In a world that celebrates constant connection, noise, and activity, being alone can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. Yet solitude is not loneliness. It is the fertile ground in which self-awareness, clarity, and strength grow. The lost island of self is not reclaimed through distraction or external validation. It is discovered in quiet reflection and intentional presence. When we embrace solitude, we create the space to listen to our inner voice, to confront our truths, and to understand the parts of ourselves that have been neglected or ignored. It is in these moments of stillness that we reconnect with who we are beneath the expectations, the chaos, and the judgments of others. Solitude allows us to examine our choices, behaviors, and patterns without interference. It gives us the opportunity to identify what truly aligns with our values and what has been adopted from outside influences. This clarity is essential because living authentically requires knowing which directions in life resonate with your true self and which are merely distractions or obligations. In solitude, we cultivate discernment, recognizing what deserves our attention, energy, and loyalty, and what does not. This discernment is critical in reclaiming the lost island of self, because without it, we risk continuing to surrender our lives to external forces rather than living in alignment with our own truth. Solitude also strengthens resilience. When you spend time alone, you learn to rely on yourself, to validate your own feelings, trust your own judgment, and find peace without seeking it from others. This self-reliance builds confidence and empowers you to navigate the storms of life without losing your sense of identity. It teaches you that you can face challenges, make difficult decisions, and pursue your purpose without needing constant reassurance. Solitude is a teacher of patience as well. Reconnecting with the self is not instantaneous. It is a gradual process of listening, reflecting, and experimenting with new ways of being. In the quiet, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without rushing to act, judge, or escape. This patience cultivates maturity, wisdom, and self-compassion, qualities essential for sustaining the island of self once it is reclaimed. Embracing solitude also allows us to create intentionally. Free from distractions, we can pursue our passions, set boundaries, and design a life that reflects our authentic desires. It is in these moments that we reclaim ownership over our time, attention, and energy, asserting that we will no longer let the world dictate who we are or how we live. Ultimately, solitude is not isolation, it is empowerment. It is the space where you meet yourself fully, confront your truths, and nurture your growth. The lost island of self cannot be reclaimed in noise or distraction. It is found in the deliberate, courageous choice to stand alone, to listen, and to embrace your own presence. In solitude, you discover that you are enough, that your life is yours to direct, and that the island you sought was never lost. It was waiting for you to arrive. The moment you claim your shore and own your life is the moment you stop running from yourself. For too long, many of us drift aimlessly, influenced by the expectations, opinions, and judgments of others. We seek approval, follow paths laid out by someone else, and measure our worth based on external validation. But true freedom comes when we stop surrendering our power and start living intentionally from the truth of who we are. Claiming your shore means recognizing that your life belongs to you, that your time, energy, and choices are yours to steward. It is a declaration that no one else can dictate the trajectory of your existence without your consent. The lost island of self exists not as a physical place, but as a state of being. It is the part of you that has been neglected, silenced, or suppressed by the demands of the world. To claim your shore is to reclaim that part of yourself, to stand firmly in your identity and assert ownership over your story. This process begins with awareness. You must first acknowledge the ways in which you have allowed others to define your limits, your desires, or your potential. Awareness is not about guilt or regret. It is about clarity. When you see where you've ceded control, you can begin the work of reclaiming it. Taking ownership of your life also requires boundaries. Saying no to what drains you, setting limits with people who disrespect your space or values, and protecting your priorities are acts of courage and self-respect. Boundaries are the walls of the island you are reclaiming. They mark the space where your self resides, free from intrusion and compromise. Alongside boundaries, claiming your shore demands intentional action. It is not enough to acknowledge your truth, you must live it. Every choice, from how you spend your time to the relationships you maintain, must reflect your values and your vision for your life. Intentional action transforms the island from an abstract idea into a lived reality. It reinforces the notion that you are not a passive participant in your life, but the architect of it. Ownership also includes embracing responsibility. To claim your shore is to accept that your decisions, successes, and failures are yours and yours alone. You no longer shift blame or wait for circumstances to dictate your path. Instead, you step into agency, understanding that your power lies in your ability to respond consciously and decisively to whatever life presents. Claiming your shore brings liberation. When you stop performing for others and start living for yourself, you experience a profound sense of freedom. The judgments, opinions, and expectations that once held sway lose their power because your validation comes from within. The lost island of self transforms from a distant concept into a tangible reality. You are grounded, anchored, and unshakable. Ultimately, claiming your shore is not a destination, but a continuous practice. It requires vigilance, courage, and commitment. It demands that you honor your truth daily and refuse to let the world pull you into conformity or compromise. When you do this, you no longer drift. You stand firmly in the sovereignty of your life. The island that seemed lost has always been yours, and by claiming your shore, you finally remember that you were never lost at all. You were waiting to return to yourself.